I'm so excited to see that this is finally happening. A space company that sends rockets up and lands them on drone ships is going to be launching an internet service. In private beta and public beta testing is starting very, very soon. For me in particular and a lot of others out there, this is going to be big. Let's begin. So it's been a while since I ranted about why StarLink is more important than 5G, and I think a commenter summed it up best, which is that complaining about the lack of 5G is kind of like complaining about a lack of Olive Gardens in the food industry, whereas StarLink is like trying to bring clean drinking water to communities that don't have it. It's prioritizing good internet for those who don't have it instead of providing absurdly fast internet speeds for those who don't need it. And given I'm not able to get fiber optic internet where I live, that's what I'm most excited about with StarLink. Though the biggest mystery that we still cannot really get a clear answer on is how exactly fast StarLink is going to be. It could depend a lot if maybe weather impacts StarLink performance, or maybe your location, depending on how many satellites are above you. But people in southern Canada and northern United States will be lucky enough to test this first, and SpaceX has already started making some moves on rolling out this service because they have approved their own Starlink router. So it sounds like when you sign up for Starlink, you will of course get this really cool looking dish that we finally now have some images of, so we know what it looks like. Essentially, you'll just have to plug that into a router that could sit inside the house, and the modem cable going from the dish into that router actually supplies it power, and it has motors on it, so all you have to do is make sure it's pointed at the sky. You don't even have to align it properly, and it has motors on board that dish that will self-adjust and orient itself in the best position possible, and it will transmit data and power through that single cable into the router that you use to obviously connect to your Wi-Fi network. And again, we still don't know exactly how fast the speeds are going to be, but from what we're hearing, it should be pretty promising. Elon replied to someone on Twitter a few months back telling them that Starlink should be about half of gigabit speed, so it's not obviously going to be able to replace everybody's internet connection, especially if you're in a heavily populated area. That's not the purpose of Starlink. It's mainly on bringing internet to those who don't have very good internet in the first place. So cities like New York and LA and Chicago and that kind of thing, that's not really where Starlink is supposed to shine, but in a lot of communities outside of those major areas that don't have decent internet coverage, this could be a steal. If it's rumored to be around $80 a month and you're able to get, 400 to 500 up and down, you could expect this to be one of the most popular global internet services out there. And for me personally, I upload a lot of videos and I do a lot of live streaming, and my stupid Comcast internet service provider charges us a lot. They're very inconsistent. They try to lock you into these contracts and they lower your rates if you sign up for these TV bundles, and they're always trying to sell you some mobile data plan. It gets really annoying, and the upload speeds max out at around 40. I get 1,000 down, which I don't really care about because I'm not downloading that much. But if Starlink is simply able to offer more than 40 megabits up, I am instantly signing up, because upload makes a huge difference to me, and download for me is never utilized because all I pretty much do is watch YouTube when it comes to downloading stuff. So they've sent a whole bunch of satellites, hundreds of them, into orbit, over 500 currently, and there's supposed to be several hundred more coming up later this year. Global coverage of Starlink is expected in 2021. For those who don't know how Starlink works, it's basically gonna be thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit. And yes, SpaceX had to get this approved by NASA to support space debris laws, so don't worry about it cluttering up the atmosphere or cluttering up visuals at night. They're already working on ways to paint and coat the Starlink satellites differently so they're not as visible at nighttime. They're really only visible when they first take off and they're all clumped together, so some people thought that this was going to become a recurring thing. Once they're unfolded into their default position, it's actually very hard to see them other than at dawn and dusk when they're hitting the light from the sun. But in the middle of nighttime, it's very difficult to see them. They have krypton-powered ion thrusters on them so that they can change their trajectory if they need to, and if they lose contact with any of the satellites for some reason, they will automatically fall into the atmosphere and burn up, so they won't reach the surface. So it's all legal, and it's all focused around keeping space clean, so don't worry about there being too much stuff up there. There's already a bunch of stuff up there as is, and this is not going to be the same as prior satellite internet, which there's usually only one or two satellites. They're very high up, and your dish has to be pointed at them exactly right. So this is kind of doing satellite internet correctly, thanks to SpaceX and them reusing rockets, so they're able to make spaceflight a lot cheaper. And with Starlink coming online next year for everybody, I think we could see a whole lot of people very happy with lower latencies, decent data speeds, and they don't have to worry about where they're located on Earth, which is great considering there's so many countries and so many states states even here that aren't able to get adequate internet that they can actually do high performance gaming or do content creation like I do, or live streaming and that kind of thing. And this should connect more of the world. And there's still billions of people that do not have internet access. And the fact that StarLink is essentially going to have a monopoly on this market for a while puts them in a great position for success. And if you don't believe this, if you think it's all a scam or SpaceX isn't going to do what they said they're going to do, I'd like to remind everyone that the whole reason they're doing this is to raise capital. The whole thought process behind designing satellites and providing internet for everyone so that SpaceX could acquire more capital to work on, getting to Mars. So if this service didn't launch and they weren't able to charge money for it, it would kind of defeat the whole purpose of the program. So they're absolutely ambitious about it. Of course, they want to start rolling it out, and that's why they've started accepting people's addresses now as well. Before, you could just enter your email and zip code and they would notify you when they're ready to start bringing StarLink in your area. Now they're asking people for their precise address location so that they can get a hold of how much demand there is for each demographic and each geographic location. And I know I'm probably not going to be part of the public beta testing system because I'm not quite as north in the US as others are, but I can't wait to see some of the initial tests here. I can't wait to see latency and data speeds and that kind of thing, because traditional internet companies are in desperate need of some serious competition. There's so many monopolies around where I am, where basically I have the best internet I can possibly get and there's really no one else to turn to. Everyone else is more expensive and slower, so there's no competition, and competition is good for the consumer. So if there's more cities and more locations that internet service providers have a monopoly over, that now they can start looking towards StarLink, just results in better internet performance for everyone, because now the traditional ISPs have to work a lot harder and StarLink has to do their best to beat what the industry standard is for those lower population density areas and locations where fiber optic internet is not really a thing. I can't wait to install one of these StarLink receivers on my house as well. I think it looks really cool, and I definitely have an easy view of the sky like most people, and it's so awesome to know that this revolutionary company like SpaceX that's reusing rockets and building Starship and everything is finally going to be selling a consumer grade product that we can all buy and just start using ourselves. What do you guys think the speeds of StarLink internet is going to be? Feel free to hit me up over on Twitter, join my Discord, we can chat more about it there. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent day. Take care.